The world of Crothall Prime was not a world as humans would imagine it. Its skies glowed emerald with swirling auroras caused by constant ion storms. Its mountains stretched like jagged teeth, puncturing the heavens. Beneath its surface ran vast caverns of bioluminescent fungi, rivers of molten metal, and an ancient hive civilization that had endured for millennia. At the heart of it all ruled the Queen of the Jacquerie, a towering figure of obsidian black carapace, shimmering wings, and eyes that glowed like dying suns. She was feared across 100 systems, known not just as a ruler but as a warlord, a mother, and a living deity to her kind. Her strength was legendary, but more powerful than her armies or her ships was her lineage. For centuries she had produced countless offspring, but most had fallen in battle or perished in the ruthless games of succession. Now she had only 2 remaining heirs, twin sons, both young but already imbued with power and cunning beyond their years. Prince Kale was the firstborn, sharp of mind, with claws suited for leadership. Prince Zoreth, the younger by mere minutes, was brash and strong, destined to command armies. The queen adored them fiercely, though she never showed weakness before her court. They were her future, her legacy. And so, when they vanished without a trace one storm-ridden night, the hive tunnels echoed with a sound that shook stone and flesh alike. It was the queen's roar, a cry of such fury and despair that even the skies above Crothall seemed to tremble. The middle. A search. Immediately, the hive was set into motion. Thousands of drones, hunters, and seers scoured the tunnels, the skies, and even the orbiting moons. No trail was found. The guards swore they had not seen the princes leave their chambers. The psychic seers could find no trace of their minds, as though they had slipped between dimensions. The queen herself descended into the tunnels, her wings sweeping aside soldiers, her claws carving into walls. She tore apart chambers, overturned ancient shrines, interrogated her own council. None could explain how the heirs had vanished. For days, the hive descended into chaos. Without heirs, rival clans whispered of rebellion. Her enemies in distant galaxies sent spies, hoping to learn of her weakness. The queen's wrath only grew. But then, far from Crothall, light years away on a small blue-green planet, something entirely unexpected occurred. The human. On Earth, in a quiet forest clearing outside a small town, Eli Thompson, a young wildlife researcher, awoke one morning to find something strange. First he thought it was a dream. He had fallen asleep near his campfire, wrapped in a blanket, with the sounds of crickets and rustling leaves in the night. But when he opened his eyes, he realized there was weight on his chest. 2 small, strange figures were curled against him, breathing softly as though in the deepest sleep. Life froze. The beings were unlike anything he had ever seen. Their skin was a smooth, midnight black, faintly iridescent, reflecting the morning sun. Tiny claws curled into his shirt fabric, but gently, almost like kittens. They had small, delicate wings folded against their backs and ridges along their foreheads that glowed faintly with golden light. For all their alien features, their faces bore expressions of innocence. 2 children resting peacefully, completely unaware of the stunned human beneath them. "Hi," Eli whispered, his voice trembling. The 2 stirred slightly but did not wake. Eli's mind raced. He wasn't a believer in UFOs or aliens. He was a scientist, a man of logic. Yet here were 2 creatures, clearly not from Earth, breathing in sync with his own chest as though he were their safe haven. He dared not move for hours, afraid of startling them. Instead, he studied them closely, noting the faint hum that seemed to resonate from their bodies, the strange warmth that spread from where they touched him. He could not explain it, but somehow he felt calm, protective even. discovery. By the second day, Eli realized he couldn't keep this to himself. But he also couldn't risk handing them over to authorities. He'd seen enough stories to know how governments treated discoveries. Dissection, experimentation, secrecy. Well, these two were alive, vulnerable, and clearly far from home. He decided to care for them. He made a shelter in his cabin, adjusting the temperature to mimic the warmth they seemed to prefer. He fed them a mixture of fruit, honey, and, strangely, raw meat which they devoured eagerly. He even learned to communicate with them, not through words but through gestures and the faint psychic pulses they emitted. It became clear to Eli that they were intelligent, far more than human children of their age. They picked up language quickly, pointing at objects for names, mimicking his speech. Within days they could say his name. Eli, Cale said, his glowing eyes narrowing with curiosity. Eli, Zorith echoed, his tone more playful, almost mischievous. Eli found himself smiling more than he had in years. His work in the forest had been solitary, lonely. Now he had companions. Strange, dangerous, otherworldly companions, perhaps, but companions nonetheless. What Eli did not know was that across the galaxy, the Queen had finally located them. The Queen's hunt. The seers of the Jacquerie finally pierced the veil. Through ritual and blood, they caught glimpses of a primitive world, a small sun, and a fragile bipedal species that had somehow taken in the princes. When the Queen saw the vision, her rage turned to icy determination. How dare this fragile, flesh-bound species touch her sons? How dare a human, a creature of dirt and bone, be the one to cradle the heirs of the hive? She summoned her fleets. Collision of worlds. Eli knew something was wrong the night the skies over his cabin turned blood-red. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the trees. Animals scattered. His own bones seemed to shake. The princes stirred restlessly, their wings fluttering. Cale's voice trembled. "Mother comes." Eli froze. Before he could respond, the skies split open. A ship, vast, black, bristling with spires, descended like a living nightmare. The forest erupted with heat and light as drones poured out, their mandibles clicking, their eyes glowing. And then she came. The Queen of the Jacquerie stepped into the clearing, towering above the trees, her wings blotting out the stars. Her eyes fell upon Eli, and for the first time, he felt true insignificance. It was like standing before a god. "Human," she hissed, her voice both spoken and felt inside his skull. "You dare touch what is mine." Eli's instincts screamed at him to run. But when the princes clutched his arms, their eyes pleading, he stood his ground. "They were lost," Eli said, his voice shaking. "I found them. I kept them safe." The Queen's roar shook the earth. "You presume to care for my heirs. You, a fragile beast of soil." But then something unexpected happened. Cale and Zorith rushed to Eli's side, their claws clinging to his shirt. "Safe," Cale said, glaring at his mother. "Eli safe." "Home," Zorith added, pressing his forehead against Eli's arm. The Queen faltered. For the first time in centuries, uncertainty flickered in her gaze. Trial. The hive demanded Eli's execution. To touch the heirs was blasphemy. To shelter them was treason. But the princes refused to leave him. Their psychic cries echoed through the hive mind, forcing the Queen to consider the impossible.